Hey there, costuming nerds! Welcome to Richie's Costumes. My name is Richie and this is my channel, my little space on the internet dedicated to costuming. I'm mostly into Star Wars costuming and horror costumes from the old classic slasher movies. And today we're going to be taking a look at the absolute ultimate classic slasher costume, Michael Myers from Halloween, the original movie from 1978. If you enjoy the video, find it useful or interesting, please do like and subscribe. I will be back with more similar content, more stuff about Michael Myers, more horror costumes and some Star Wars costumes. Today we're looking at one of the most iconic, most recognizable costumes ever, that of Michael Myers from the original Halloween movie from 1978 by John Carpenter. We're going to look at all the important components, the few components that you need to put together a Michael Myers costume, and we're going to look at maybe doing it on a lower budget up to a high-end budget. This is how to do a Michael Myers costume on any budget. Let's get started then with our first component, and as anybody who has seen the movie knows, the solid base for any Michael Myers costume is his mechanic's overalls, or coveralls as you may say in the United States. Now, these were the overalls or coveralls that he stole from a mechanic when he broke out of the institution and was on his way to Haddonfield. The coveralls used in the costume department in the original movie were a set of Big Mac coveralls from JCPenney. Big Mac was an in-house brand, or maybe still is today. Maybe you can tell me in the comments below, does that brand still exist? But back in the day, they will certainly have this brand Big Mac at JCPenney's. For anybody who's not from the United States, or maybe is from the United States and has been living under a rock all their life, JCPenney's is a big chain of department stores in the USA. They also obviously have a great selection of clothing, including work clothing. Back then they had a specific set of coveralls, and a few pairs of those were bought for, or maybe just one, I'm not sure. Tell me down below if you know better. Certainly one set of coveralls was featured throughout the whole movie, worn by the stuntman, and these were by JCPenney Big Mac label. Now the bad news is, if you are an absolute accuracy nerd and you're looking to get the exact costume right down, perfect replica, these coveralls are not available anymore. The movie obviously is from 1978, filming was in 1977. You're going to have to look very, very hard to get the absolute replica. They are out there on eBay. You can still find them, but it's not that easy these days. It's quite a few years ago. The good news is this kind of standard design hardly changes, and there are various brands, current brands, that you can look at to get something very, very close to the original. This set of coveralls I have here are from a brand called Reed. I got these off eBay. I think you can get them pretty much everywhere in the USA. I had to order them. The important features of this type of coverall are these pleats in the back. These are, I don't know what they're called, but they allow freedom of movement for people doing DIY or working in a workshop or whatever. That's an important feature. Also, staying on the back, we've got this elasticated waist at the back. Plain at the front, but elasticated at the back. Two pockets at the back. You also will typically have tool pocket at the side. This is all consistent with the original coveralls, which is good news. This is a very standardized design, quite common in various brands still today. You have a zip up the front, and you also have two pockets. I mentioned here these are by a company called Reed. The information and label reads style 547C, so if you're looking out for some of these, 547C is the code for the style. These get pretty close to the originals. Another really good option is the brand Redcap. They are still producing coveralls. They get very, very close to the original design too. There is one small difference why I prefer these by Reed, and this is this little flap on the right hand pocket. The Redcaps are very similar. I'll display the code name for the actual specific model of the Redcap. I don't know it off by hand, but I've also owned some Redcaps in various colours. The colour is very important. Some of you are probably looking at this and thinking, those look green. Those coveralls look green. But surely Michael Myers wore a blue set of coveralls? This colour is spruce green. The original coveralls in the original movie were indeed green. And as I am more into replicating the accurate costume, more for a direct replica, I bought the same colour. What we see in the movie is indeed a set of coveralls that look in most scenes to be very, very blue. Now that can only be put down to lighting. If you are still doubting me, go back and check out the scene where Michael is standing outside the fence to the school, Haddonfield School. You see a quick close-up of him from kind of the neck down to the waist. You see the coveralls in daylight. In one of the rare scenes you see them in daylight, and you can quite clearly see that it is very much a spruce green colour. If creating an exact replica is not your bag, if what you are looking for is to create an impression of what you saw on screen, then by all means go with navy blue. Redcaps and these, I believe, are also available in navy blue, and indeed some people even think that grey works better. They were of course Redcap coveralls that they used in H20, and they were charcoal grey. It's really up to you what you prefer. I go with the full replica, so I go spruce green. I'd really like a pair of original JCPenney Big Macs sometime, but at the moment these will do fine. Now, so give me a moment just to put these on for you, and then we will look at the other components. Okay then, that is a quick overview of our... Oh, excuse me. That's a quick overview of the coveralls. Obviously, as far as price point is concerned, if you can get Redcap or the Reeds, they're normal prices for coveralls. It's not anything special. It's not a replica costume or anything. This is just normal stuff for DIY or for a mechanic or whatever. So you're looking at maybe, I don't know, $25, $30. I can't really remember. Obviously, if you're looking to import them from the USA, it's going to be a little bit more with shipping. I got mine off eBay. It usually costs about the same to ship the article to Europe as it does to actually pay for the article, so $50. I also know there are licensed replicas of the original. I've no real experience with those. They're a little bit more expensive. I don't know how good they are. The last time I looked, they were only available in one size fits all kind of deal, which kind of doesn't make sense to me. This way you get something from a normal hardware store or from JCPenney's or whatever, your supplier off eBay, you can get it in your size, and I think that's pretty important. Your coverall should fit. If you're on a really tight budget, you may have something like this lying around at home that you use for working around the house, as long as it's kind of dark blue, dark grey, dark green, whatever, and it vaguely looks like the same thing. Why not use it, reuse what you've got, maybe pick up something secondhand. If you're really pushed, any old secondhand set of coveralls, overalls will do. There's no reason you could not pick up something up for like $10. As I say, the sky's the limit. You can obviously look online and spend a lot of money getting the original JCPenney Big Macs. Obviously, if you're buying from somebody who knows exactly what they have, they're going to be asking a lot of money for it. You can browse eBay a lot, and sometimes you find bargains. People don't really realize what they're selling, don't realize the significance of it all. But the sky's the limit. As far as my t-shirt's concerned, what you wear underneath your coverall, to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Throughout Halloween, the first movie, you don't really see anything what Michael's wearing below his shirt. You don't see what he's got on. There's a brief moment in Halloween 2 where you see Dick Warlock is wearing what seems to be a plain black t-shirt. So I advise wearing a plain black t-shirt underneath your coveralls. It doesn't have to say Halloween on it. In fact, that would be pretty wrong. But we're going to go with that for now. Moving on then to our next costume component, one that's quite often overlooked or not afforded much importance, and that is the boots. If you're going to do this properly or want to do this semi-properly, then you're going to need something like this. As you can see, Michael was a fan of the colour green. These are in fact US Army surplus jungle boots or replicas thereof. The original boots were slightly different. It's the same kind of story as the JCPenney Big Mac coveralls. The proper originals are a little more difficult to come by because they were US Army surplus jungle boots from Vietnam from 1968, I believe. Luckily, these are still being produced. The only real big difference in the modern design that you can buy, these are all available to buy new. Look on eBay, US Army jungle boots, you'll find them, or online, various online stores. The only major difference is not a great difference. The sole of the shoe is a little bit higher. It has a different profile. They were flatter, the ones that Michael's wearing in the movie. Incidentally, bit of trivia, they are also the same boots as the Colonial Marines wear in Aliens 2. They're all kitted out with exactly the same Army surplus boots. The prices on these vary enormously. Living in Europe, I had the same story. I had to import them, so I bought them off eBay. The boots themselves came pretty cheap. Shipping was an added cost. They're not expensive. You really don't need to spend $40 on these, if I remember rightly. Obviously, if you're not really picky, you're just really looking to get a costume on a budget, you want a fun costume for Halloween, of course, under the coveralls, there's only a very brief moment in the movie where Michael steps out of a car and you see a flash of this green part of the boots. You can obviously wear any kind of black workman's boots and it will look kind of in the right ballpark. That's fine. Obviously, I like to take things a little bit further. One day I hope to have the original Vietnam 1968 style boots with the flatter sole. But these are a great modern option for now. Obviously, if you're on a budget, you can do it for nothing. Everybody's got some work boots at home. You may have some boots kind of like Caterpillar. In fact, the boots that Dick Warlock wore in the first sequel, Halloween 2, were indeed some form of plain black Caterpillar boots. So if you're not too fussed, you can do it for next to nothing, zero, or just get some cheap used boots online or whatever. But these are the ones that I chose. So there you go. I have the boots on, really look the part. Incidentally, I find these fit a little bit big. I wear a UK 11, a European 45 usually, which usually means that I need to wear a US 11.5 to 12. I've ordered 12s and 11.5s and they're too big. I wear a US 11, so maybe go down half a size or even a full size. Moving on then to the most interesting, most fun, and probably the most important part of your costume, and that is, of course, the mask. What originally started out back then in 1977 as a Don Post Halloween mask, a Captain Kirk replica mask, Star Wars replica mask, and was modified heavily for the shooting of the movie, is what we know as our Michael Myers classic 1978 mask. Now, he's got his sunglasses on because of the bright studio lights. Michael, close your eyes. Obviously, with this, the sky is the limit. I believe you can still get really acceptable, licensed, readily available masks for maybe $15 even. It will be thin latex, it won't have so much detail, it may have molded hair, but it will be a white mask. It will be instantly recognizable as Michael Myers. You can do a really cheap costume that's fine just for Halloween for a bit of fun. Now, this actually is a mask made by a guy, an artist in the independent scene. He went full-time. His company was Wicked Mask Productions, or WMP, and this is I forget the name sometimes, a vintage 75, a V75. The V75 refers to the fact that it is based on what was a 1975 Halloween mask. The Don Post is a company that now has gone out of business, sadly. They make all kinds of costume stuff, Halloween stuff. They made the original masks for Halloween 3, the pumpkin, the witch, and the skull mask. They were responsible for the Star Trek masks. They brought them out in 1975, and this obviously was based on the original Kirk mask. WMP had a sculpt made to replicate the original Don Post Kirk mask, and then Chris, the guy that ran the company, great artist, converted all these to various different versions of Michael Myers. This is my absolute favorite mask. In fact, I've reduced my collection somewhat, and I now only own 3 masks. I have another converted Michael, a different mold, from a different mold, a different type of mask, and I also have this in a Kirk version, so without the conversion to Michael Myers. Skin colored tones, and still has his eyes sculpted in. If you're interested in a really great replica, you have to get in touch with the fan community. Just go online. There are forums, there are Facebook groups. I'm not going to give you any recommendations as far as what forums you should join. There are different ones out there, one rather big one. You will find all kinds of information. I highly recommend you join Facebook groups and online forums to continue researching this. Don't just take my word for this on the costume. There'll be more information and better information out there than what I can provide you with, and that will also open the door to you to the whole world of indie masks, independently made masks. By indie, I mean without a license. These are all fans like you and me, horror fans, or artists that are into horror masks and produce their own masks and sell them to the community. Obviously, all underground and without a license. Again, the sky is the limit with this. There are some particularly rare and sought after masks. People go crazy collecting hundreds and hundreds of these things and paying a lot of money. I'd say the sky is the limit. I think the price point for this mask, when the time I bought it, a good few years ago now, maybe even 7 or 8 years ago, was around $300, $275, something like that. So you can really invest quite a lot of money, but there is a great deal of work that has gone into this. All the hair, properly sourced hair, in part paying a professional sculptor to work with the clay beforehand. The paint job is an excellent replica wearing, replicating the bits where the flesh tones were. Obviously, the original was hastily made prop. They took a Kirk mask, gouged out the eyes with scissors, sprayed it white with normal can of paint, pulled out some of the hair, painted some of the hair black, and the job was done. This obviously is a painstakingly recreated replica, and I love my mask. Accuracy with the mask is pretty much important for me. Now, I spoke briefly about the licensed replicas of the coveralls which are available. Now, it's a good time for Michael Myers costume fans who are on a budget, because the licensed mask market has changed radically in the last 5 years. A while ago, before that, you really had to invest quite a lot of money in an independently produced mask to get something that was even near to the real thing. But because of various independent artists moving into licensed work and working for big licensed companies, and retiring some of the old indie sculpts and taking them with them to use for licensed mass-produced masks. There are now some very, very acceptable licensed masks. The main source for me, if you're looking for a kind of more expensive but still affordable licensed mask which has real hair, some weathering, a little bit more of a paint job, would be Trick or Treat Studios. I'll include a link down below. Their stuff is decent, and instead of €300, you're paying, sorry, $300, you're paying something like $50, $60 for a mask, which is good quality. It'd be thicker latex. It's comparable in specs to something like this. The hair is real, etc. But obviously it is mass produced. The paintwork is simpler, it's done quicker, there would be minimal wearing or there'll be no wearing at all. My particular favourite mask, I don't exactly know what they call it on Trick or Treat Studios. I recognise the old sculpt. It was what was known as a Psycho, I believe. It's the mask, you may have seen it in Stranger Things when they have the Halloween episode. One of the cast is dressed as Michael Myers and he's wearing the Trick or Treat Studios mask, H1, original movie version, and it makes for a really decent costume. So if you're on a middle budget, $50, $60, something like that for your mask, some red caps, $25, something like that, and whatever you choose to go with the boots, and you can get a really great costume together. Of course, you have various options with accessories. The most common one obviously is a knife. I don't remember where I got this from. This is a replica knife. It has an aluminium blade. It's very thick. You're not going to hurt anyone with it. A basic handle. I bought this as a kit. Again, it was from somebody in the Michael Myers fan community. Common sense is what you need with this one. I do have an original butcher's knife, which is pretty much exactly the same as the original. The original in the movie was an 18-inch, I believe the brand is thought to be Lamson, or is there another brand that comes very close, which is one I have. I don't recall the name. I don't have my knife with me right now. But obviously it is a great big 18-inch butcher's knife and very dangerous. You don't want to go out trick-or-treating or even walking around a horror convention with a real butcher's knife. In fact, I'd be around children, I'd be a little bit worried with this. This is more for display or more for taking photos. Obviously it's a great looking piece. From a distance it looks the part. I could have finished this better, the handle, varnished it or whatever, but it's okay, it does a job. Go to your fancy dress store, look online, order the closest thing you can get. A plastic knife will do it for Halloween. Let's have a look now then at the full costume in full effect. I think it looks pretty good, considering that all this stuff is new. It's available to buy new now. There is nothing here that is true vintage. I could maybe have gone down a size with these coveralls. They're a bit roomy, but that's not too bad. Fits okay on the shoulders. You could go a little bit snugger depending on what kind of look you're going for. Considering this is kind of a middle to upper price range costume with no real vintage, as I say, I think the overall effect is great. I'm gonna pop my head in here. I might go a little bit muffled for the rest of the video, but let's have a look at how the whole costume looks.
When I close my eyes, I see your smile, and it keeps me going for just a while.
Okay guys, that's an overview of my complete Michael Myers costume. Obviously with the real hair you can spend time styling the hair, replicating your exact scene or whatever. I didn't really spend any time on the hair, I just kind of messed it up. I hope this video was interesting, maybe useful. Remember to keep safe on Halloween night, don't carry around big butcher's knives, don't take it all too seriously, have fun, and I hope you find the right Halloween costume for you, for your budget. Until next time, bye bye!